Good Saturday morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, the issue of voting rights is a hot topic in Washington and across the country. At least 19 states have passed voting reform laws since the 2020 election. Some say it's to make the system more secure, while others say it's just another way to make it harder for some Americans to vote. Voting rights for all was one of the things that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought so hard for. The civil rights leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner would be 93 years old today if not assassinated back in 1968. His activism between 1955 and 1968 helped bring the American civil rights movement to the attention of the world. He worked closely with the NAACP in Birmingham, organizing sit-ins in a call to desegregate public spaces and, of course, to help register people across Alabama, Mississippi, and the South to vote. Now, 59 years later, the Alabama NAACP continues to fight for Dr. King's dream. The NAACP isn't just an organization, though, that fights for the rights of African Americans. In its charter, the NAACP promised to champion equal rights and eliminate racial prejudice, as well as to advance the interest of colored citizens in regards to voting rights, legal justice, and educational and employment opportunities. Bernard Simelton, the president of the Alabama State NAACP and also a national NAACP board member, joins us today to talk about what the civil rights organization's focus is today and the challenges that it faces, considering the political and social environment that we're in right now. The NAACP in the 21st century, protecting victories of Dr. King's leadership back in the 1950s and 60s, and still addressing some of the same struggles from the days of legal segregation. Our conversation with the Alabama State President when Perspectives continues. Our guest this morning on Perspectives, Bernard Simelton. He is the president of the Alabama State NAACP and also a national NAACP board member. President Simelton, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate you having me on this morning. It's a pleasure.
In our conversations, I guess the first question I'd like to ask you, being now the year 2022, are you ever asked what is the NAACP doing in Alabama these days? And if so, what do you tell them?
Yes. Well, that question is, we get asked frequently, what is the Alabama NAACP doing? And we are doing a multiplicity of things. One, of course, is we always do voter registration and the civic engagement process in which we do voter registration, we do voter education, and finally we get people out to the polls and vote. And I think during this time frame, it's more important than ever to make sure that everyone's vote is counted. And again, a part of that is getting people educated, and we must educate our people on the reason to vote. Also, we've been involved in several of our communities, counties, and as well as cities, and redistricting. As you know, redistricting determines a lot about a city, a state, and we want to ensure that every person's vote is counted equally. And so we have been working with some people from the Legal Defense Fund, as well as different branches in our state to ensure that their redistricting process is fair and that, people are attending these meetings and speaking out.
When you look at that issue of voting rights, of course, is also a national one then where a lot of people believe that the federal government has to be involved to make sure the states do their citizens right. Do you think that things are being done fairly here in Alabama, or do we still need to address this redistricting because of the increase in population, the diversity that is included now, but yet we still have 7 as relates to U.S. representatives, and still pretty much the same areas that no new growth or expectation there to share the vote here in Alabama?
With the increase in the minority population, African American and other minority groups in Alabama, the Alabama NAACP presented a map that would allow up to 2 particular majority districts in the state of Alabama. And the legislature, of course, rejected those. And we think that because of the number of people in the state of Alabama, minorities, that there should be and must be at least two minority districts in the state. And again, we'll continue that fight. We'll continue that struggle. It doesn't end with the legislature. There is legal action being taken, and of course, we're a part of that as well.
When you look at the breakdown of the legislature here in the state of Alabama, good numbers as far as minority representation, but we don't seem to have the partnerships and coalitions as in the past when you had a diverse group of people in both parties. But today it seems to be an us versus them type of mindset. Is that something that you see progress towards changing to the better here, or is it still a struggle to get that type of the way things used to be and the way things were worked out back in the 70s through the 90s?
Yeah, it's still a struggle, and the NAACP continues to struggle, continue to reach out to try to make this state more than a one-party state, more than a one ideology state. Right now, the ideology is focused on being very conservative and not being totally inclusive. And that's whether it's in the legislature or whether in our policies that the state implements. And so we want to change that ideology. And of course, we are nonpartisan, but we know that the ideology of those who represent us needs to change to be more inclusive rather than exclusive. And, there's a lot of talk about our immigration policy at the state level as well as the national level. And we need to embrace our immigrants and those who come here to work, to get jobs, to become citizens of the United States as well as citizens of the state of Alabama. And so we have a lot of work to do in that area. And certainly that's one of the areas where we will continue to work to change, again, the ideology of the people in the state of Alabama.
Let's talk about the organization, because the NAACP was founded by a diverse group of people, black, white, Jewish, and today are you able to still attract that cross-section of people and the diversity that you need to accomplish your goals and your plans?
Yeah, and I tell everyone the NAACP, the membership is majority African American, but we have members and people who are in leadership positions that are race of all races and all ethnicity across the spectrum. And so we don't just represent African Americans. We don't just represent black people. We represent anyone that is having issues that needs some assistance with, especially when it comes to discriminatory policies and practices. And so we represent a multiplicity of people. And, at one time we had a Native American that was our second vice president, and we have worked closely with the Native Americans throughout the years, and we work closely with the Latino, Hispanic community. And so while our membership is mostly African American or black, we represent and we have members who are very diverse membership.
Take about a minute and tell me, are you able to attract that type of individual that you're seeing that is needed today to accomplish the goals and the way it has to be done today, where a lot of legal battles have to be fought to win the equal opportunity and justice in the state? Are you attracting those kind of people today, and what ways are you making sure that people know that you are here to do business?
Yeah, well, we reach out to diverse communities. We have a strong partnership with the Latino community. We have, again, a partnership with the Native American community, and we intentionally reach out to those communities to show them that, the NAACP can be a strong partner with them. We can work together and accomplish more than, perhaps, one group going by themselves. But more importantly, Eric, is we try to attract people who have the same ideology that the NAACP has, the people who support our goals and mission. Those are the kind of people that we are attracting. And yes, we do attract those. And certainly we welcome people of all racial background, ethnicities. But, we more importantly want people who support the goals and objectives of the NAACP.
President Singleton, we're talking today on Perspectives, and of course, our state president of the NAACP for the state of Alabama, as well as a national board member of the NAACP. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, more of our conversation this morning with President Singleton. Welcome back to Perspectives. Our very special guest today, President Bernard Singleton. He is president of the Alabama NAACP, as well as a national NAACP board member. Now, I understand, President Singleton, you have been a lifelong member of the NAACP, so it means a lot to you. And in the course of being president in Alabama, you have twice received the regional Medgar Evers Award for leadership, as well as understanding the recognition from the Alabama State Conference. Tell us, what does that mean to you when we talk about Medgar Evers and his roles in the NAACP in Mississippi, especially where you are a native son of Mississippi yourself? What does it mean to you to receive that award in your work that you're doing with the NAACP?
Well, it means a lot to me, and to be recognized by the state conference. And this was when I was not the president of the Alabama NAACP, and so, but I don't do the work, and it's all volunteer work that I do to be receive recognition. I do it because, first of all, I love the work that I do, but more importantly, there's a need out there for civil rights organizations. We see now that our civil rights are being eroded, being taken away from us. And so if we don't have organizations like the NAACP that are out there fighting day in and day out, our country will move further and further backwards. And we cannot, and I will not allow the state of Alabama to move backwards and, without a struggle, without a good fight, to make sure that everyone's rights are protected.
And that's a question I wanted to ask you. How concerned are you about the political and social climate in our nation today, both in our state and nationally?
Yeah, we know what happened January 6th a year ago. And if that type of event had happened and those would have been African Americans, it would have been a totally different story of, the need for some type of justice in this. And so I think that's where, we must continue to make sure that our voices are heard. And, we cannot always be in every state and in every county, but we must continue to make our voices heard wherever we are. And we must do it. And certainly the NAACP is a nonviolent community, nonviolent organization. But we believe in sitting down and making our voice heard. We attack you in the ballot box, and we attack you in the streets by marching. And finally, through our legal system, we must continue those struggles. And that's where we, previously, our legal system, we felt that if we could get into the federal courts, we would have a good chance of winning. But because of some of the judges that were appointed by the Trump administration, it's going to be a much harder struggle because of the way that some of the judges look at things versus the judges that was in those positions before. So we have the civil rights community have a big struggle, a big fight on its hand to ensure equality and justice.
Now, you are a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. You served 23 years active duty in the Air Force. What did you think when you saw what happened in Washington that day, both as a NAACP leader, but also as a retired military man, understanding that some of those people who participated were military veterans as well as even some active duty people?
Right. I could not believe what I was seeing. I fought for this country to ensure that our freedom of speech, our freedom of assembly is protected. But when you go and physically attack, to destroy, to our state, our country powerhouse, where all the decisions are made, again, this is not speaking against your freedom of speech, but when you go in and physically destroy, that's an attack on, and those people committed acts of violence, and should be held accountable for it. And again, as a military person, I could not imagine myself ever doing anything like that. Certainly, I'll get out there and march and protest, but to physically go in and destroy our state, and well, in this case, our national capital, that's just unheard of. And it all emanates from the leader of those who were in a part of the attack. And you look at General Flynn, a 3-star general.
Yes,
you could never imagine. I could never imagine when I was on active duty a 3-star retired general behaving that way, and it's just unbelievable.
Unbelievable is the word.
I'm just dumbfounded by what
President Simpson. We have about 2 minutes here. Let's get a couple of things in real quick. One of those people was Mo Brooks, the Alabama representative from the northern part of the state, who's now running for the Senate seat. Have you had a chance to talk to him since that happened?
No, we have not spoken to Mo Brooks about that. And I think his words speak for who he is. And, even though I'm in the 5th congressional district in the state of Alabama, he does not represent
That's right.
what we stand for in our congressional district.
Let me ask you this very quickly. You all, with the Alabama NAACP, you have a civic engagement plan for 2022. Can you briefly give us an idea of what that is?
Yes, what we plan to do there is to engage with our, it's more than Senate, but with our representatives, and we've got Anthony Daniels coming on our call on Wednesday night to help us lay out, what they need the NAACP to do. But we're going to really engage with our legislators and let them know, what it is that the NAACP believes that they should be, what bills they should be passing, and how they should vote on these bills that are coming up. And, the critical race theory bill that is, that has been pre-filed, those type of bills, should not be a bill that, deserves any time by our state legislature, because it's not taught in the schools.
And very quickly, should the governor be promoting the use of Covet rescue funds to build prisons?
Absolutely not. The prison needs to be reformed. They need to be, we need new facilities. But those funds, if she wants to use them in the criminal justice system, should be used to help those people rehabilitate, and also the prevention of people from going to prison in the first place. To use those funds just to build prison, we do not support that, and it's a misuse of the federal funds. And the state always says, well, we don't need the federal government, interfering. We don't need them in our business. But they're taking these funds to build new prisons, and I'm hoping that it's overruled by the federal government, where they will not be able to use those funds for that purpose.
President Bernard Simelton, president of the Alabama NAACP, as well as a national NAACP board member. We thank you so much for coming and sharing today, and hopefully you'll get a chance to come back and join us once again.
Okay, thank you, Eric, and I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to future engagements.
For more information, you can contact the Alabama State Office of the NAACP. Just call 256-444-1300. You can also email them at info@alnaacp.org. Now, locally, call that number that you see there, 251-333-0145, for the Mobile branch of the NAACP. And their email address is there as well, mobilealnaacp@gmail.com. Next up on Perspectives, did you know that 5 of the magnet schools in the Mobile County Public School System were ranked among the top schools in Alabama? The U.S. News and World Report ranked the schools based on student performance. 2 of them now were recognized as the best in the state. Mobile County schools are in the midst of their application process this month for the upcoming school year starting in August of 2022. Parents who want their children to attend a magnet school have just a few days left this month to apply. We're going to talk with 4 of the magnet school principals to find out what they, their teachers, and staff are doing to give their students a state's best education. Well, please join us here next Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for Perspectives as we discuss those important issues and seek solutions. I'm Eric Reynolds. Have a great week ahead, and thanks so much for joining us this Saturday morning.
Thanks for watching Fox 10 News. Watch us live wherever you are on our mobile, our streaming news app, and you can also watch us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV.